Hey, what's up, everybody? Fabs here. And hey, a lot of the big name free agents, they've already changed teams. You know what that means? It's time for a mock draft. And I've done one that's going to show up on NFL.com. I'm going to give you the first round, a little bit of a sneak preview, starting off at number one with obvious Christian McCaffrey, who's coming off of the second best fantasy season of all time among running backs. Maybe that'll be hard to duplicate, but he is an amazing player all the way around and is certainly the consensus number one. And number two, Saquon Barkley. Now, I get it. Last year, he was a bit of a disappointment, but look at what he did when he got healthy at the end of the season. He was back to being Saquon. He'll be the centerpiece of that Giants offense. He is clearly a top two pick. At number three, Zeke Elliott. He's been one of the most consistent running backs in fantasy football since he came out of Ohio State, and that will continue in 2020. He'll remain the centerpiece of the Cowboys offense and give you reliable production week in and week out. At number four, Michael Thomas, the top wide receiver in fantasy football who broke all kinds of records in 2019. He'll continue to see a ton of targets from Drew Brees. Michael Thomas, certainly worth a top five pick. At number five is Dalvin Cook. This guy was one of the best running backs in fantasy football on a points per game basis, averaged over 20. Now, injuries are a concern with Dalvin Cook, but if he can stay healthy for 14 games or more, this guy could be an absolute beast, and he comes in at number five. At number six, Alvin Kamara. I get it. He was a disappointment last season. He didn't have many touchdowns until the end of the year. He had 4 over his last 2 games. That was an outlier for me. He is too talented to not get in the end zone more in 2020. I say he is number 6 overall in fantasy drafts. At number 7, Derrick Henry. Now, Henry's not going to catch a lot of balls out of the backfield, but it doesn't matter because he is going to rush for in excess of 1,400 yards. He'll give you double-digit touchdowns. And if you had Henry in the second half of last year, you know how valuable he is in fantasy leagues. At number 8, Davante Adams. Last year was a disappointing season for him because he missed time due to injuries. But if you look at his point-per-game average, he was averaging over 17 points. He's going to be the number 1 guy for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. I say he is the second wide receiver to come off the board. At number 9, Austin Eckler with Melvin Gordon now in Denver. Eckler is going to be the guy for the LA Chargers. And in the first 4 games of last year, when Gordon was holding out, Eckler averaged over 20 fantasy points per game. He's an absolute stud, both as a runner and a pass catcher. And at number 10, Nuke Hopkins. Hey, he changed teams from Houston to Arizona, but it doesn't matter. I still have him ranked as a top 3 wide receiver. The targets will be there. He's got a good young quarterback throwing him the football in Kyler Murray, so Hopkins should continue to produce great numbers for fantasy fans. And that is my first round top 10 picks in 2020 fantasy drafts.